days.
All right, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning. Welcome to Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. It's Thursday, the 19th of January, 2023. Well, it's so good to have you on the show. 19 days into the new year, and I'm sure a lot of resolutions have been dashed already. A lot of "I will be a better person," hasn't changed, right? Good to talk about this morning.
Yes, a lot. There are several things that we hope to achieve every new year. Make those resolutions probably at the end of the year or, the first day of the year. When you listen to those preachings in church and, other religious gatherings. And then you always think that this year we're going to do something better. You're going to be this, you're going to be that. But then realization and reality sets in and that some things might not, work the way you think. So
some things might not work the way it is, but we pray for you that all of your things work the way you think, and you pray they will work. Once again, my name is Emmanuel Ojadigili, and I'm welcoming you to the show this morning. We bring it to you as it is when it drops from where it drops. We bring you 3 segments on the show: the newspaper review segment, the interview segment, and of course, Spring Trends, where we tell you what's happening around the country and around the globe. Some interesting stories on Spring Trends this morning, but you just have to wait to get there to see what's happening. So thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Temitope Ajijola Oluwaola.
Well, it looks like the fuel queues are coming back. Did you see any this morning?
Yes, I'm even scared that there might be some sort of scarcity. Most filling stations before were selling only that it was high. But now, some are not even selling as much as they used to. And then the queues are long. I saw some on the way, and it was really terrifying.
Well, that's a problem for those who have vehicles, for those who have motorcycles, and for those who would, the commercial drivers, that's a very big headache. And the ripple effect on the cost of transportation for the ordinary people, and not just cost of transportation. Now, cost of food will rise because people who bring down food items want to, luckily for those of us who are still legging it, we don't have to buy petrol. It's quite not really cheering news for the entirety of the country, but then some of us are aiming to petrol. We can't queue. We don't have to queue. Just wake up and walk to wherever you want to walk to. But that's that. We'll take a short break, and when we come back now, we'll bring you the newspapers. Still stay with us. All right, welcome back to the show. Now let's get down to the national dailies this morning. We begin with the Punch newspaper. The banner headline has what we were just talking about. It says, "Fuel scarcity bites harder. Marketers blame NNPCL. Ipman to sell petrol at 270 naira per litre as supply gap widens. Lingers. NNPC GMD defends subsidy. Oil production now 1.52 million barrels per day." And you can see pictures of motorists queuing there coming from Lagos. That was as of yesterday, but this is not really something that should be happening again.
And it isn't. I begin to wonder now that if some experts, if some people have been saying that the subsidy should be removed, I think it's time to look to other options, because it seems that the policies or the same things we've been doing is not working. So we need to start doing some things else. This is not going to go well for the nation at all.
Well, interestingly, this has been on since December.
Yes.
And in December,
even before December.
Yes. And in December, the NNPC said they had 34 days sufficiency. The DSS came and was making all sort of threats, but it did not translate to the change in the situation, as you can see right there. But like Temitope said, we hope that the government comes in and tries to ameliorate the suffering of the common people. At the bottom strip of the paper, the Punch newspaper this morning, train attack, 2 Edo chiefs, 5 others arrested. Page 2 of the Punch newspaper. But it's getting interesting. Some of the victims are getting rescued, and some arrests are being made. When the investigations are complete, I'm sure we'll see the level of involvement of those 2 chiefs and the 5 others arrested, if they were actually involved. Yes. But it's good that some arrests have been made. Yes,
it is. It shows that the security personnel are actually doing something to, to tell the people that, yes, they're still in control of things.
Okay, still on the bottom strip of the paper, the Punch newspaper, federal government asks U.S. to probe Nigerian Don's death. On page 5, Delta 2022 monumental medal party taints National Sports Festival. The National Sports as well was held in Delta State some time ago, and yesterday we're talking about how there were investigations into allegations of padding of medal, and I wonder how that will work. I mean, there are sports. If you participate in a sport, you get a medal.
Yeah.
Your medal reflects on the table. So how do they pad? Was it that in writing the figures they were inflated? Do the organizers not know how many medals they made? These are questions that need to be asked. Yes, they need to ask. But if you want to get more on that story, it's on page 28 and 29 of the Punch newspaper this morning. And above the nameplate, Nigeria owes China, Japan, Germany, 2 others $4.85 billion.
That's huge. And the fact that we're owing the likes of China, Japan, Germany, and even 2 others is something. It's worrisome, really. It's worrisome. I just hope that the FG would do something to, even not pay back, to find a way to negotiate with these countries, because I don't want to be carted up to some country because my government could not meet up their own end of the bargain.
Well, that's a joke that has been making the rounds. People saying that one day our creditors will come and say, okay, you are a Nigerian, you owe $50,000. Follow me, you work in mine. That's a modern day slavery. But we hope that the government either stops borrowing or finds a way to pay up this debt. It's disheartening to see the amount that we owe. But away from that, on the page 20 of the Punch newspaper, Emefiele appeals court summons, challenges judge. Page 20 still. I have a problem with Emefiele seeking to not honor some invitations. He has declined some invitations from the House of Representatives. Now, this is a court summoning you and you're appealing. At least go there first if you have nothing to hide.
Exactly. I keep wondering, even if your offers you or gives you some sort of immunity or whatever, I think you should still honor some invitations, if not all. Because if you have nothing to hide, really, you should go. I mean, they just want to dialogue. They just want to say things. They just want to know some things. You should go, if not for you or for them, for the people.
Well, for reputation's sake too. Exactly. Actually, for reputation's sake. Emefiele, please stop running. Those were the conspiracy theories too when he left the country. That person said he was running away because he was declared wanted or because he had some issues. But again, it also speaks to the fact that, like the Christians would say in 1 Timothy, chapter 3, says that the bishop of a church must be a man of one wife, a man of good character, a man of good reputation. The people who should be at the helms of affairs should be people who are at the very least, very clean. No, let's remove the very now. Clean. You shouldn't have, to some extent, I shouldn't have the person in charge of the country's treasury linked to terrorism. We shouldn't have the person in charge of the country's treasury signaling interest to contest for presidency. We shouldn't have the president, the governor of the CBN, for Christ's sake, away from the country for over a month at a crucial time when we're trying to switch currencies. I mean, these are issues that have to be tackled. We need to get to the point where all of our leaders and political appointees are without scandals. I mean, just take a walk down memory lane. You see Kemi Adeosun, former minister, certificate scandal, Adebayo Shitu, I mean,
a whole lot of them.
It says a lot about the person who is appointing them in the first place.
Yes.
Loretta Onochi and the INEC scandal, wanting to appoint a CADCARI member.
Yes. Say a lot about the people electing these people into office.
And even the Senate too.
Yes.
Ibrahim Magu, EFCC chairman, arrested for corruption. I mean, where are we going as a people? It is disheartening that these people do not only have such scandals hanging over their heads, they still have the audacity to act anyhow. I mean, you leave the country for close to a month while you have been on vacation. No problem. Anyway, envy stopped Abiola from emerging president. That's coming from former President Olusegun Obasanjo there, page 12. Some interesting things that were said by Obasanjo, and some persons have been quoting him as having said that if he had really wanted his third term, nobody would have stopped him. But that's quite a bold statement to make. The people would have stopped him. Yes, the people would have stopped him. And the entertainment scene beside the nameplate. Very, very interesting news last night. I saw it. Yes, I read the tweet by Wizkid. Fans excited over possible Davido Wizkid historic tour. It's something that would happen and will blow up the entertainment scene. I mean, these two, they may not even have issues, but the fan base, the certain BG and the FC.
The disparity that the fan bases cause, amongst celebrities, especially in the music industry, is really something that is so worrisome, really. And but I'm looking forward to this. I know it's going to be an explosion of sorts in the entertainment industry.
Yes. Well, that's that on the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, moving quickly to the Nation newspaper. The banner headline says, SANs pose under threat by returning officers' powers. The writers Olanipekun raises concern over Section 65 of Electoral Act. Agbakabar seeks clarification on Section 134 of 1999 Constitution. So the polls, according to the SANs, the senior advocate of Nigeria, polls are under threat by returning officers' powers. How? Well, I said it too before that the INEC might be ready, very ready, in fact. But then all these officers, the ad hoc staff, the returning officers, every one of them, I hope that they won't be compromised, one way or the other.
Yeah, some very interesting comments there, actually. But Section 65 of the Nigerian Electoral Act 2022 has some really interesting this thing there. Decision, it refers to the decision of the returning officer on the ballot, talking about how the decision of the returning officer shall be final on any question arising from or relating to a unmarked ballot paper, trying to get some of these powers arrogated to the what's it called now, returning officer. Yes, power provided that the commission shall have the power within 7 days to review the declaration and return where the commission determines. So that's the fear of some of these people. And then subsection 2 of that section says a decision of the returning officer under subsection 1 may be reviewed by an election tribunal or court of competent jurisdiction in an election petition proceedings under this act. Now, that means that the returning officer has the final say, regardless of whether the figures are correct, whether some things are going wrong. Then when he finishes that, the commission now has to review within 7 days or thereabout. And after that review, you can approach the court. It says where the commission determines that the said declaration and return was not made voluntarily or was made contrary to the provisions of the law, regulations and guidelines and manual for the election. So that means the commission will now have to exercise discretion to decide if the presiding officer actually made an error. And in doing all of this, there's a place of compromise. There's a place of sabotage.
Yes.
And so these worries raised by the SANs are actually very, very valid. We need to revisit these issues. Yes. And we can see Olanipekun being quoted there.
Yes. as raising concern. Well, it still boils down to the INEC. By my opinion, that the INEC should make sure that the returning officers and every other officer involved in the election process is very clean, is trustworthy enough, or can be trusted at least to some extent. And there should be sanctions, put in place in case of any found compromise.
Yes, look at Olanipekun statement there. He's of the firm belief that vesting the returning officers with the power to return candidates and also review their own decisions poses a danger to the polity. You may want to tilt towards that assessment there, because if you are the judge, what's it called now, the jury, judge, and executioner in your own case, is a very big problem that could happen. And Agbakoba wanting clarity, saying that one, the winner must score the majority of votes, and the other, the winner must score the highest number of votes. This is confusing. There are so many things. We hope that we would have to discuss. We may have to discuss that on the show and then see how we can, work things around. Yes.
Right. Above the nameplate, NDLEA seizes properties, 500 billion naira drugs in 2 years. That's disturbing. If you ask me, 500 billion naira drugs in just 2 years. And it means that NDLEA has a lot of work to do, and the Nigerian space has been permeated by this vice. In just 2 years, that's too rapid.
Yeah, we must commend the NDLEA for that very good job they've been doing.
Yeah.
I told you, I think sometime on the show, that people have become very, very devious and crafty. The way they pack drugs, put it in cartons of noodles, in beverages, even in the sole of shoes, belts and all of that, including yam. I told you the one about yam, where I don't know how they do it. I don't know. We brought it on the show some time ago on Spring Trends. They split up the yam, put the drugs inside. I don't know how they cover it up. How it's like this. I don't know how to do that. But the NDLEA has been up and doing, and 5 billion naira worth of drugs in 2 years. But my concern really now is what happens to those drugs after they've been seized.
So
do they somehow find their way back into the black market, or is there some sort of these are the issues involving Abba Kyari, seizing some drugs and then wanting to sell it back. But then it is commendable that they've gotten this far.
Right, moving away from that story to page 5. APC pieces Islam's PDP for avoiding response to Atiku Gate. Well, it's been an interesting one between the APC and the PDP, the back and forth, the petitioning and everything, between the APC and PDP. Yes. But I think that the PDP should be up and doing as well to, provide counter, evidences, as the case may be, or to at least respond to, whatever it is that the APC is asking of them. Because we still have a big problem with our candidates, for the leadership positions in the country. Still being, surrounded by a lot of controversies, even the APC itself.
Yes. Now today we'll be on the interview segment. We'll be talking about some of these issues. Now, after the APC, PCC, and made those allegations against PDP, the PDP also made their own counter allegations and asked Tinubu to be arrested, for allegations of corruption and some other issues that we'll be looking at subsequently.
Of course, it was going to come to that. It's always a back and forth thing. When they find something on you, or at least they said they found, the other party too will go dig up something, whether it's a ruse or it's real. They just do that. My
problem is that the Nigerian people are the one caught up in the middle of all this.
Yes. Always. All right, away from that, direct flight from Israel to Nigeria restarts in March. That's to be found on page 7. Why IG Usman's tenure was extended by minister. Page 6. Honestly, do you think that his tenure should have been extended?
Well, this is Nigeria. Same thing happened with Idris Mohammed. No, was it Idris Mohammed? The one before Usman Baba. I can't remember his name now. Same thing happened. His tenure elapsed. Buhari sought for 3 months and then it got to 6 months again. I don't know why we do that. It speaks to the fact that we need to look at the competence of the people at the high level of some of these organizations, some of these bodies, how is a man's tenure elapsing and you extend it when there are people who can
obviously
be promoted?
do the job, yes.
So it speaks to the fact that there is something else involved that meets the eye. But it does not speak well of the presidency. It does not speak well of
the president
cabal.
always has an answer to that he's working with trusted allies, I think there should be other people who can.
Again, that also speaks to the fact that there is a problem. There's a gap. If you only have a few persons you can trust, to the point of extending that tenures when it constitutionally lapses, then you as a leader, you have a problem. If I'm the head of an organization and I cannot trust all my members of staff with certain positions, it tells a lot about my leadership skills.
Yeah.
It tells a lot about how the workers see me. But you can't take away the fact that humans can be funny, but that is not an excuse to say that they're working with trusted people. And so one person has to be there. It's not done. There are people who are even more trustworthy and more competent than Usman Baba. But because you don't know them, you can't pick
You're not willing to know. There are other people who can suggest them, but no, we keep extending tenures. All right, just below the nameplates, we deducted 3.3 trillion naira from Federation account for subsidy, says NNPCL. Just like I said, we probably should be looking, at removing the subsidy, maybe.
We should be looking towards that.
Because they just said they deducted 3.3 trillion from the Federation's account for subsidy.
And what's more funny about that is that the NNPC did not remit 1 kobo to the Federation account. But they deducted 3.3 trillion naira. So you begin to wonder, where are we going as a people? You are not bringing anything, you're not making any money for us, but you're taking from us.
Yes. It's a big issue. It's really big.
And we want to ask the Petroleum Minister, Mr. President, what are you doing? What exactly is his job? The man is in Mauritania, went to Mauritania to collect an award, a peace award. Meanwhile, there's a report that says that 89% of all martyred Christians are killed in Nigeria, in the world. 89% of Christians who die in the world as a result of religious extremism are in Nigeria. Nigeria is not even an Islamic state. Well, anyway, away from that. But the Minister of Petroleum has to tell us what he's been doing for the past 8 years.
Yeah, he has to. All right, just there's some disturbing pictures. I think that's from the Ukraine-Russian war. And the Ukraine Interior Minister, 17 others die in crash. That's on page 7.
The war will enter its first year next month on the 24th of February.
Yes, February last year.
So that's it. It was a very terrible birthday gift to give to me because my birthday is on the 23rd. And the day after that, Russia invaded Ukraine. I don't want to be remembered for that. I don't want my birthday to be remembered for that. By the way, start preparing my gifts. Anyway, the Ukraine's interior minister now is dead.
Yes,
died in an attack. Very sad. The lives of people should not be used as pawns, in this world. But that's what it is, unfortunately. Very unfortunate for us in this world. Many wars.
The war has been unfortunate for people because these people in these two countries have been losing their lives. But then some people have been making money off of it. Yes. Beside the picture now, Kwankwaso says Labour Party is built on ethnic sentiment. Well, this is quite contradictory, as Obi himself, as the Labour Party's presidential candidate, has been saying that there should be no ethnicity, involved in choosing leaders right now.
Well, but the truth actually is that no party is absolute or innocent. All the parties are built on ethnic sentiment. The APC is a coalition of, dating back to the days of ANPP, CPC, AC, ACN, all of them coming together. The PDP has been the only party that just morphed into the PDP like that from the beginning. You understand? But the Labour Party
Yeah.
is also a party that it's not built on ethnic. In fact, the Labour Party is even more popular in the southwest than in the eastern part. If you want to talk about eastern parties, maybe you talk about APGA and say that that's the party that has a stronghold in the east. But then this to me is not. It's not a point that a presidential candidate should be making.
Yes. All right, just below the newspaper now, the bottom strip says 2 remaining victims of Edo train kidnap attack regain freedom. That's another good news. That's to be found on page 6.
Well, very, very good news. And on that note, we move over to the Daily Trust newspaper. And the banner headline says, wrong choices responsible for Nigeria's woes. Kwakwanso, why major talks with Obi collapsed. Win your polling unit, get appointment contracts. APC tells PDP members, reject my husband after 4 years if he underperforms. Tinubu's wife, don't vote along ethno-religious lines. Obi, if you look at the riders, the 3 riders, only one stands out as a people-oriented statement.
Yes.
And that shows you that sometimes our candidates deviate from the actual picture. You don't reward people with appointment and contracts because they win you their polling unit.
That's from the PDP.
Yes, you don't do that. You don't. It's not a reward. We're operating a reward system in Nigeria, which is unfair because there are people who are more competent in that unit.
Yes. And they might not be from your party. They might not even be from your ethnic, group or your religious group. But then I would talk about the wrong choices responsible for Nigeria's woes by Kwankwaso. I think this is an obvious truth. And then it also boils down to the next leaders, whoever they will be, making the right choices now, because it's easy to say it when you're not there on the seat. But we are hoping that as they are saying it now, they keep it in mind, bearing it in mind, and use, their discretion, good discretion now to make the right choices to move Nigeria forward, because this is a very crucial time in the polity.
Well, Kwakwanso was also at Chatham House yesterday, and he was talking about him not wanting to step down for Obi because he has a degree, a master's in engineering. He's a former minister, a former senator, a former governor. Obi is not a trader, so if there's anybody who should be stepping down, it should not be him. My God. So you've been a minister for defense, you've been a governor, you've been a senator, and you still want to be president. So away from that story, at the bottom strip, free trade zones attracted over $30 billion investment to Nigeria. That's coming from President Buhari. The way we bandy figures around in this part of the world, to this part of the country, sometimes it's amazing. You hear $30 billion, you hear 1 trillion naira, you hear this and that, but you don't see the social impact of those funds. We hope that will change, that whoever becomes president is more decisive and takes better actions for the good of the people.
I hope so.
At the bottom strip, 2 monarchs, 5 others arrested over Edo train station attack. On page 6, IGP Usman Baba gets tenure extension, and Abbasio 2 reaffirmed as the Obong of Calabar. That's on page 7. And up above the banner headline, Kano governorship candidates sign peace accord. I have a problem with the peace accord.
Okay.
Because immediately after they sign it, they go over
back to status quo,
to campaign and begin to mudsling. And they want to argue that they are not the ones doing it, but your statements could incite people. Your inactions could incite people. If your supporters are misbehaving, you call them to order. You don't call them to order, that's silent consent.
I agree. Totally agree.
Well, so Federal Executive Council approves 1.9 trillion naira for NNPCL to build 44 roads. I mean, another huge amount there to build 44 roads.
Quite confusing. and interesting at the same time.
Our next story is still on the Daily Trust. Bad Belle prevented Abiola from, I like how you have to pronounce it the way it is, not Bad Belle or Bad Stomach or something. Bad Belle prevented Abiola from becoming president. We've talked about that. Yeah. And that's President Obasanjo, page 5 of the Daily Trust. And just before we move on from that paper, let's remind you that 11 schoolgirls of FGC Benin Yari have now spent 583 days in captivity. One student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, 555 days in captivity. But that's on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
All right, moving on quickly to The Guardian. This morning, the banner headline says, poses, $1 billion anti-terrorism spending poses on Buhari's security success. Now, the writers in Weze, how over-invoice and lack of transparency make nation unsafe. No price too high to pay for political stability. Retired Deputy IGP justifies anti-terrorism funding. Insecurity worse under current administration. Sislak insists.
Well, that's worrisome. Some of those writers there.
Yes.
Over-invoicing, lack of transparency, make the nation safe. That's talking about how much we spend on our armed forces and how some persons decide to play politics and be dishonest with the lives of those soldiers at the front line. I was speaking with one of them last night, and some of the stories that are coming out from that place, from the Northeast, is not really very good. The conditions are not really up. They're not really as they should be, and that's because somehow somebody's disrupting the flow, the chain, the supply of really good stuff to them. And we hope that is really
I couldn't agree more with Sislak in this, with the statement that insecurity is worse under this current administration. But we hope that the incoming administration would do better by its citizens. All right, just above that, under the below the nameplate, CBN allays fears over counterfeit new Naira notes. So there have been counterfeit Naira notes in circulation, because I've seen some groups, posting, some warnings telling Nigerians to be aware of counterfeit new Naira notes.
Well, it's bound to happen. It is really bound to happen. The Nigerian people are as amazing as they could be devious and crafty. And so why are you counterfeiting the notes? And unfortunately, the security measures on the features of the notes are not very noticeable, except to bring the notes to your face. And I think I was making a comment some days ago about the note. Someone was talking about if you touch it too much, it stings your hand. And I said that's how you know the note is actually real, because the CBN was saying that there's some traces of intaglio ink that would rub off if you touch it. Okay. It's possible that something. So that's how you know. Yes, so that's how you know that this is real. But if you see a fine new note and then you try to, and there's no, you know that may be fake. But then I'm sure that measures will be put in place to curb the proliferation of fake notes.
All right, just beside that, on page 4, Buhari okays 1.9 trillion naira for NMPC to reconstruct 44 federal roads. That's on page 4. Now, on page 28, Obong of Calabar re-elected days after sacking by Supreme Court. This is interesting. He was sacked, and then the people re-elected him. It's still goes to show that we have a lot of how would I put it now? Is it policy or is it leadership issues right now? Okay, I don't know why the court should have anything to do with a tradition.
Exactly. Well, because the court is an arbitrator, so the last resort, instead of taking matters into it. So I'm sure dialogue may have gone on for long, and until they were able to sort out those issues at the court. But there was a time we're saying on the show where the CJN said that there are about over 6,000 cases at the Supreme Court that have not been addressed. And I was telling Femi that there are some cases that should not even get to the Supreme Court. There are some cases that should terminate at the Court of Appeal or maybe the High Court. Cases like this should not. Cases like this now will set back some other important cases, and then it's a mimicry of a system. Days after he was sacked by the Supreme Court, gets re-elected. So
That's another
so
problem.
why then now that he's re-elected again, someone somewhere will want to go to court and you start the process all over again. Very unfortunate.
All right. Beside that, I was offered 10 million naira visa to implicate Saraki, says Ofa robbery suspect. That's on page 29.
That's been an ongoing issue since 2017 or 18, about when that very deadly Ofa robbery occurred, taking many lives, leading to destruction of property. And the celebrity cop at the time, Abba Kyari, was drafted to solve the issue, and it's sad, you know. So he was. It was said that former governor Bukola Saraki, former Senate president too, was the one who sponsored those persons. That's what the suspect was saying.
Okay.
But immediately after Abba Kyari was arrested last year or 2 years ago, and the prosecution began, some of the suspects began to sing a new song. That they were intimidated, they were forced, they were bribed into saying that Saraki sponsored them. And this is what the Ofa robbery, and another suspect is saying that he was offered 10 million naira. Again, you wonder what is going on in the country. That's my own question. What's in the occur? What's happening?
If at this time these people have not been, their faces, their names are not known yet.
It is well.
It is. All right, below the newspaper, now the bottom strip. Senior advocates question legal framework of 2023 elections. More of that news is on page 3. And I understand Nigeria's issues, says Kwankoso at Chatham House. That's on page 3. That brings us to the end of the newspaper review this morning.
Well, on that note, we'd like to end our paper review this morning. We brought you stories from The Punch, The Guardian, the Daily Trust, and of course, The Nation newspaper. It's time to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be bringing you our guest who will be talking to us about some of the allegations raised by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in response to the allegations of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Do not go anywhere. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the show. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, and we've been bringing you the newspaper analysis. Now it's time to cross over to some of the issues that we intend to discuss today on the interview segment of the program. Now, over the weekend, like we told you yesterday, the Presidential Campaign Council of the All Progressives Congress, APC, demanded the arrest and prosecution of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Now, in response to that, the PDP also said that they wanted an arrest to be made, and that arrest is, by the police or any other agency. They wanted them to arrest the presidential candidate of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for quite some reason. And that part of those reasons, we'll get to know some of those reasons along the line as part of the shows as the show progresses. In the meantime, we have joining us on the line this morning, Comrade Adeboye Adebayo, who's the spokesperson, APC Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council, and National Director, Media and Publicity, Asiwaju Project Beyond 2023. Thank you, Comrade, for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you, my brother. How are you today?
Thanks
we're very well.
Thank you.
Okay, so the PDP has demanded that your candidate, your principal, be arrested. How do you see that? How do you take that?
Thank you. You see, the issue of PDP in the country has become a joke, because over the period of time, they have not displayed any iota of seriousness in this campaign. Now, for crying out loud, why would somebody call for arrest of my principal? Bola Tinubu has not committed any sin that deemed it necessary for him to be arrested.
Okay.
Now, come to think of it, just a few weeks ago, a young man, Mike, that has worked with Atiku Abubakar, for so long in the media section of his activities, he came out with resounding evidences, both data and voices, telling the world the intention of this man, telling the world what this man has done, telling the world what this man did when he was in the office, using SPV, an economic instrument to steal, to siphon people's money.
Okay. So
to steal people's money. And then they didn't give it free to defend that. And now they are turning the table to arrest Bola Ahmed Tinubu for what? For what precisely? For what thing?
all right. So
the CCC, we have called the police, the EFCC,
okay,
the CCD, the ICPC to investigate Atiku based on the evidence of ground.
All right. So
what have they got to call for Tinubu arrest?
Let me take you through what the Atiku Kowa Presidential Campaign Council organization says. They're saying that the formation of a uniformed squad by the All Progressives Congress, APC, codenamed Jagaban Army, is a treasonable act and calls for the arrest and questioning of the APC presidential candidate. I mean, Kola Olabodinyo, the spokesperson of that campaign council, was saying that it is a slap on the face of the Nigerian army, that there is a paramilitary or whatever it is that was created within the APC with the assignment of positions, Chief of Army Staff of the Jagaban Army, Wing Marshal of the APC National Youth Wing, the Asiwaju Air Force, and some of those military terms. Don't you find it disturbing that while Nigeria is still grappling with some internal issues of insurgency and territorial integrity, something like this is happening? People creating some sort of shadow military organization with actual titles, with actual positions that are similar to that of the Nigerian Army, the Air Force, the Wing Marshal, the Chief of Army Staff. How do you respond to that?
My brother, that is laughable again. Young people within the party structure, within the campaign council, come up with an idea of forming the Jagaban Army. As I speak to you, I'm a Jagaban Army, defending him, marketing him, telling the world what we can do. Some those people that you are talking about, are they carrying arms? They are just young people that are ready, when we were in primary school, we used to call ourselves soldiers of Christ. We call ourselves soldiers of Christ. These are soldiers of Jagaban. They are not carrying arms. They are not causing any problem. Their mandate is to go to the town, to go to the voters, to encourage the voters, to see the reason why Bola Tinubu is the best for this job. They are Jagaban soldiers.
But comrade,
they are defending Bola Tinubu, they are selling Bola Tinubu, they are selling the program to Nigerian voters.
But comrade, these people have uniforms and are using actual designations of the Nigerian army. How do you defend someone calling himself a chief of army staff and saying Asiwaju Air Force?
Is that how are they carrying out their mandate?
Okay, so let my colleague come in at this point.
Okay, so are you saying that there is an army, but as opposed to what the PDP is portraying, it is not to cause some sort of distractions during the 2023 elections?
I didn't get that, my sister.
The PDP is here upholding the notion that this army is to disrupt the flow of things during the 2023 election. Is it true? Or they're just an army for what? What exactly is their purpose as an army?
If I get you very well, you are talking about being distracted by the actions.
I didn't get you.
How are these the army? These are harmless young Nigerians. These are harmless politicians who believe so much in Bola Tinubu's agenda, who believe so much in his manifesto, and they are doing everything within the body of the law.
Okay.
To the general voters.
All right.
So how are they distracting the army?
All right. So
are they carrying arms?
Yes. So
there is no way you can allude to that illusion.
all right. So
In what way?
comrade.
In what way?
Comrade, I'm currently going through the Twitter handle of the national youth leader of the APC. And right on that Twitter handle, he's referring to someone as the Air Vice Marshal of the Asiwaju Army, Air Vice Marshal of the Asiwaju Air Force. And then on that same Twitter handle, I think my producers can get that on screen for you to see, is a picture of a cap with an insignia on it, similar to that of the Air Force. Now, I'd like to take you through what the Constitution says. The Section 251 of the Criminal Code Act of Nigeria says, any person who, not being a person serving in any of the armed or police forces of Nigeria, wears the uniform of any of these forces or any dress having the appearance or bearing any of the regimental or other distinctive marks of any such uniform in such manner or in such circumstances as to be likely to bring contempt on that uniform, or employs any other person so as to wear such uniform or dress, is guilty of a simple offense and is liable to imprisonment for 3 months or to a fine of 40 naira. Now, bearing any of the regimental or other distinctive marks and being called the Air Vice Marshal of Asiwaju Air Force, do you think that that is contradictory with this Criminal Code Act?
It's not contradictory at all. Now, let me tell you, if you call them Asiwaju Air Force, you call them Nigeria, I mean, they are not Nigeria Air Force. They are not Nigeria Army. And then, you see, the legality costume, to attract people. There is no way you can say their regalia is the same thing as the army regalia. There is no way you can conclude that their regalia is the same as Air Force regalia. There is no way you can say their code of conduct or activity are the same with that of the Nigerian army. They are not in any way, competing or working on the mandate of the Nigerian soldiers. These are young people. Asiwaju Army is not in the constitution. Asiwaju Army, they are not carrying arms. Their mouth is their weapon. They are talking to people. The regalia is not something that you should be dwelling on.
Yeah,
PDP is not a serious party.
Okay, so
PDP is not a serious party.
all right, I also
let us discuss issues.
Okay, we will discuss issues. We will discuss issues. We will discuss issues. But comrade, I like you to go back to what you just said about them not bearing any resemblance to the Nigerian army. Do you think that all of these issues now, this army that you're referring to, could have done without making the uniforms, without assigning designations, and without, Asiwaju Air Force, are they flying? Asiwaju Army, assigning positions. These positions are known to be positions reserved for the actual military. You as a person now cannot call yourself an air vice marshal. That is impersonation at its very best. So how do you think that some of these things would have been better handled?
See, my brother, these are just what do you call it? These are just on paper ranking. It doesn't carry any weight. It's of no meaning. It's of no consequence.
But it is also in contravention.
In my church, they call me Air Marshal in Christ.
El Marshal in Christ. There is in Christ there, right?
A friend of mine was just recently appointed as the governor of performing musicians in Lagos. Does that make me a governor? Like someone?
Some of these things are in context, comrade. Like you said now, they call you a vice marshal in Christ. But just so that you continue making your point, I'd like to bring to your notice something, that this act, some persons have raised section 92 of the Electoral Act 2022, subsections 5 to 8, and I'd like to read them out to you, but particularly subsection 6 says, a political party, aspirant, or candidate shall not keep or use armed private security organization, Vanguard, or any other group or individual by whatever name called for the purpose of providing security, assisting or aiding the political party or candidate in whatever manner during campaigns, rallies, processions, or elections. These are issues that are even in the Electoral Act. And I know that you want to move away from it very quickly, but I'd like again to bring you back. You said that you're being referred to as Air Vice Marshal in Christ. That is understandable because there is a context provided to it. But this titles being bandied around, the uniforms that are very similar to that of the actual army, the actual military, with insignia and even giving out salutes in public. Do you think that these things are out of line, honestly?
Now, these are the areas we're talking about. These are the we're talking about. When they are going on the streets, do they have the capacity to perform any Nigerian army's mandate? Do they have the capacity to have the responsibility to attack people?
Yes. So in answering your question,
to attack bandits.
Okay. In answering your question, comrade.
These things are not in any way contradict the law at all. The Electoral Act, or the code, or the penal code, or the criminal code, or any of the Nigerian laws.
Well,
no way you can say that.
In answering your question, comrade,
what they are doing has not in any way contravened the law.
All right. In answering your question, comrade, on the 11th of January 2023, by 8:40 a.m., the youth leader of your party, Dayo Israel, made a post and says, Jagaban soldier makes citizen arrest on APC poster destroyer. Criminal released with caution to go and sin no more. Our soldiers are on guard everywhere. We will not allow you steal our money. Now, let me ask you, citizen arrest being made by a Jagaban soldier, that person is already being called a criminal who was released with caution to go and sin no more. I mean, these are statements and comments that are synonymous to what the actual security forces do. I mean, making a citizen arrest, referring to the person as a criminal without prosecution, without, even parading the person, and also releasing the person that you've arrested. They're already exercising some of these powers, referring to themselves as soldiers.
No. Honestly, the scenario just now. I am not aware of it.
Okay.
I am not aware of it. Honestly, I'm not aware of it.
So probably you're probably not aware of the true picture of things as well. So maybe, just maybe, that the APC is actually right to say that this might be a militia to disrupt
the PDP,
the PDP rather. They might be saying that they are formed to disrupt the 2023 elections.
And to add to that, how do you cut their wings? How do you curb them from outgrowing what you're saying now is an innocent organization? Because this is an organization, like it or not, within the APC.
It is quite unfortunate that each and every time, instead of PDP to dwell on issues, they dwell so much on frivolities. They don't discuss issues. All they do is they are well grounded in distractions. They should speak to issues and affect Nigerians. All these things we are talking about have no effect on Nigerians. All these things we are talking about have no effect on the economy of Nigeria.
Are you sure about that? Because my
no effect on the situation of the country.
My colleague just.
If people, it's only like this that the media has done the PDP, in chasing shadows. Don't forget that we have a serious issue at hand. Special purpose vehicle, an economic instrument that the people was using to defraud country. The media is not dwelling on that.
Well, Comrade Adebayo, yesterday on the show, we spoke extensively about your party's allegation against Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. We've spoken on that allegation at length, and so it's not very correct you saying that the media is not dwelling on that.
Yes,
we've dwelt on that. Now we are dwelling on.
I'm not particular about your media.
All right. So
I know your media. Your respectable one and balancing as well. I have been following your TV for so long. I mean, since inception. I've been following you for so long. The radio system of the station, fantastic radio, fantastic reporting, fantastic media organization. So when I say media, I'm not dwelling on your.
All right.
On your station.
We just wanted to clear that for the sake of our viewers. I said we just wanted to clear that for the sake of our viewers. Now,
what I'm saying is this. We should try as soon as possible as a people not to dwell on shadows. There are real issues that we need to be discussing, especially in a campaign period like this. And we should not be calling for distractions. Some people are wearing some uniform, some people are calling Asiwaju Yamasha, some people are calling themselves Asiwaju Yamasha. And making citizen arrests. Those are no issues. Those are no issues. Okay, so let's look at what the issues now. Your principal has been in the news so much about his background, about his identity. On two occasions now. One of his documentaries had a picture of Donald Duke, former governor of Cross River, and there was also another incident with identity, especially recently a campaign issue. But those are by the side. Now, I'd like to ask you: does it bother you that your candidate has so much controversy surrounding him? What do you think that says about the integrity of your candidate, if so much of that integrity has been called into question? But Ahmed Tinubu is among the contenders today that are running for this office. But Ahmed Tinubu is the only patriotic Nigerian among them, and I will tell you how. You see, when people want to do something, please be inquisitive intellectually about the antecedents. Bola Tinubu is the only person among the contenders that stood by Nigeria when democracy was lacking. He did everything within his power, intellectually, economically, financially, to support democratic growth and development in Nigeria. He worked so obviously for the deepening of democracy in this country. That we and you are talking today, freely like this, some of the kudos we give to Bola Tinubu because he fought for democracy. He fought for principle and deepening of democracy in Nigeria. What are the people doing about democracy in Nigeria? What are the people doing about democracy in Nigeria? That they have chances to run for office today. Thanks to God and Bola Tinubu, who laid down his life is resources to take the military away. That is the basic pedigree, basic consistency of Bola Tinubu in Nigeria political space. Now, secondly, don't forget that this man has been the only one within the country, within this campaign that is speaking to issues. What do I mean? Every Nigerian today is experiencing what is called estimated billing. Those are issues that is very close to the mind of Nigeria. Everybody, including you and mine and me, we are experiencing estimated billing, whereby never people will just come, give us bills, 100,000 naira every month, 1,000 naira every month. But Bola Tinubu said, when it comes to power, he has a digital device, digital technology that will make me and you to be reading our meter in our phone.
Okay.
And the provider is reading the meter.
Okay, Mr. Adebayo.
I will just pay for what I use.
All right.
Those are issues that affect the Nigerians directly.
Okay, please.
It's the only one people to issues that affect the Nigerians directly.
Let me take you back.
When we begin to compare candidates, none of them. Is it better? Is it Obi? What of the big God as a student?
All right, you're saying
the best thing that people have done in his life is to be a subordinate over the job. I also said, Atiku Abubakar being my vice president was a great that I would take to great. After he trust such a person who died in that exalted office.
all right, let me take you back.
If Anambra is good today, if Anambra is not economically today, people like will not be doing that business in Lagos. They will do more than business in their land. But equally, every Igbo today, including Peter B himself, prefer to do their business in Lagos.
But does that not speak to the fact that we are one country? Does that not speak to the fact that we are one country and anybody can?
And I want you and I to support him.
You just, Mr. Adebayo, please. You just said that he was the only, or he is still the only patriotic Nigerian amongst all those contenders, all the candidates. How? You said he is the only patriotic Nigerian amongst these candidates. Please explain how patriotic, in what sense?
I've just said this. And Atiku Abubakar that is using SPV to form the country.
Okay.
I don't think that is patriotic.
So what about
that all his life has been importation in the Nigerian economy? If he a person or somebody that need a very good template for development beyond his tenure. But I think was governor in Lagos from 1999 to 2007. But beyond his tenure, Lagos government has been using his template of development to develop his gate and the re-engineer the state of Lagos. So it's not that Lagos is not lacking implementing. To implement those templates. And today, Lagos is soaring, higher and higher economically. Together that it has become the fifth largest economy in Africa. So I'm not just to three people, somebody that's using everything to reform Nigeria. Somebody that said $50 billion was spent, but they were not able to do anything for the everything with it. The money was not returned, we don't know where the money is. Can you stand to as a patriotic person? Or a Peter of that everything in Israel is about importation? Lies. So can you say something about it patriotic? Whether it's one of the people that have done everything to support democracy in Nigeria, using its resources to support democracy in Nigeria, what kind of person was investing? He did develop Tinubu, unconstitutionally. But instead of asking Tinubu to go violence, he went to court, used the instrument of law, to fight that injustice. And he won within the rule of law of the country. So the person is highly patriotic.
All right, so
and to be given the chance to lead this country.
All right, so let's walk it back a little bit, Mr. Comrade Adebayo. You said that because of Asiwaju's impact in Lagos, that's why you have Igbos coming to Lagos. Is that? Do you think that's the case, or is because we are truly one Nigeria and anybody can go anywhere to to do business. There are northerners in the east, there are easterners in the north, there are southerners everywhere. Are you basing this, are you saying that it was because before Asiwaju became governor, Lagos was the capital of the country? So it's expected that it must have been developed to a certain extent to accommodate everyone who is coming to seek a better life there.
My brother, you and I know how Lagos was before the throne of government became the governor of the state. You also, the one of the biggest challenges we have as a country is that history has been taught from being taught in school. A lot of young people today, on social media and the people that you call social media, they are not aware of history. But close to us was the tenure of Buba as the minister of Lagos State. We knew how issues were: insecurity, Agbero here, Dada here, Egunde here, and there. Lagos was grossly insecure. But the moment who came on board, he turns the table around through his security initiative that we call RRS. You are aware of these things. Until we came on board, change the financing, reorganize the lines of Lagos. That is when Lagos began the steps of huge economic development. That was the time the beginning started. Yes, because of India. Yes, everybody has India. But the result that was recorded in Lagos in terms of economy, development and growth, started with Bola Tinubu. And you agree with me that during his tenure, during the revolution of his own techniques, is when Lagos is elected, as the fifth largest economy in Africa. Now, come to think of it, because in the people that we are talking about, there was ocean surge. The ocean will just, override the boundary and shoot people away, shoot property away. That the federal government will come to Lagos, or they will be just to stay some load of sand and go back again. The government will come again. But what I meant, we will come with a template and turn the misfortune of ocean surge into a fortune today. Where America, the one America of the world, they now decided to build their largest and their biggest embassy in the world on that land. Misfortune to fortune can only happen under Bola Tinubu president. That's the fact I want to let you know.
All right.
Don't shy away from it. These are facts that are very valuable. Nobody has reported any of these developmental tendencies in their previous encounters. None of them. You put out this. What have you done before? That you can be proud of. What have people done before you that you can be proud of? What have somebody done before that can make you feel proud? No, that is very valuable. So let us even we want people can do that in Lagos. Lagos is a nation of its own. Don't forget, we have a high number of population in Lagos. And it is reality today. It is going today. Yes, Lagos can accommodate all of those things economically, socially, because of this country that other people brought. So let us give it to him. But Tinubu is not God. He's not the only one that can do things, but at the moment, it's the best choice for this office.
Okay, so let me take you to something now. Recently, former President Obasanjo there was a video of him circulating with some of his former old school mates, on the streets going about, and much has been said about Asiwaju's background and saying nobody's coming out to claim him as their former classmate and all of that. I mean, these issues have been in the media space for a while, and then with the controversy surrounding the use of Donald Duke's picture as a younger Tinubu, a lot of persons are saying that they don't even know where the man is coming from, and they want to know more about him. Can we have a Tinubu and an old school boys reunion or something? These are questions people are asking. And I mean, you want to look at integrity, you want to look at, like you said, patriotism, but you also want to look at the fact that people are not just willing to give out their vote. We'll still come back to that question. But how do you respond to that?
Yes. You see, the issue of Parliament's background, always reoccur whenever there is a measure like this. But what I want to say on that is that either somebody is working on the street of Abeokuta, the street of Lagos or Kano with his schoolmate or roadmate or whatever about, that does not say that Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not have children schoolmates or old school association. We have seen it before. The Chicago State University, they've released a chart where picture of A and his mate, his old schoolmate, were displayed. So that shows that we don't need his teammate to work in Lagos Road, work in Abeokuta Road, work in Oshoko Road or Kano Road to ascertain that he has mates. The bottom line is that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a scholar. He's a scholar and then he's a brilliant scholar. So he has gone to school because the minimum qualification you can have to protect anything in Nigeria is that number one, you must be in Nigeria. Number two, you must also have black citizenship. Then number three, you must have some level of education, in secondary school and all of that. Bola Ahmed Tinubu was a senator. Having satisfied all these requirements, Bola Ahmed Tinubu was a governor for 8 years, having satisfied all these requirements. Bola Ahmed Tinubu will also be president that is very good at the mandate of Nigerians, having satisfied all of these requirements as put together by the law. Thank you.
All right, so let's also come back to the issue of competence. You've talked about patriotism. Yes, you've talked about patriotism. Yeah. Yes, I have. Comrade. Now, the question is, some persons, including former President Obasanjo and Pastor Tunde Bakare, have spoken about the fact that the Emilokan politics, kind of politics, is not what we should be practicing. And I'm asking you now, you're saying that Asiwaju was part of the struggle for return to democracy and all of that. Is that sufficient reason to reward him with the position of presidency?
No. I'm not. The word reward is mysterious.
Yes, because when Bola Tinubu was in his video, comrade, wait, because you're saying something now. He said that he has spent years serving the Northerners. He has spent years bringing other people to power, and if you check, it's now his turn. So I'm only echoing his words. I'm not using my own words.
See. To whom what is given, much respected. But I don't want to dwell on that. What I want to dwell on is that Bola Tinubu wants to serve the country because he believes and we know that he has solutions for national problems. Forget all these local things that people don't go anywhere. It's not a storm within the system. But the real issue is that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has the magic wand with the grace of God to provide solutions to many of our national problems. He's the most competent leader among them. He has displayed it before. He has displayed the capacity and he can do it today. And he will do it against the Nigerian society. Let me tell you one thing about Bola Ahmed Tinubu that you don't know. Bola Tinubu was in Igbo. People asking, the Igbo people, the Igbo traders, they express a dissatisfaction with what is happening, when they carry their load from Lagos to their destination in Igbo land. The extortion, by different several regulating agencies. The Bola Tinubu said, when I become president by your mandate and the grace of God, if you pick your load in Lagos port, a sticker will be given to you by government that will cover your load from Lagos or any other port to your destination. Those are issues that affect Nigerians. Those are the things that Nigerians want to have. What I've heard said in Kaduna that under its presidency, nobody, no Nigerian will go to Lekki Estate, Maitama Estate, JRA to Osogbo to go and buy a house with millions of naira in cash. No one will do that without administration. That there will be credit facility that will be available to all Nigerians, irrespective of class and status, so that people will buy as low as fridge, freezer, AC, generator, houses, cars, and they will pay little by little with the availability of that availability. If you're a market man and a woman, a student and worker, civil servant and business people, everybody will have access to such facility. In such a way that nobody will have any reason to go to GRA in Osogbo or Okeke in Osogbo or Maitama in Abuja to go and buy houses with big money in cash. Which means with that, people have no reason now to be amassing wealth, to be stealing money. That will discourage stealing. That will discourage the corruption. Because if you have the money, you can't use it anyhow you want. So he also talked about factors, talked about economic production, that the factors that are affecting production in Nigeria today are one, availability of money, two, power. He said credit facility will be made available to all producers, manufacturers. Thereby, they will be able to have enough funds at a relaxed rate to do their production. Which means when that happens, somebody bringing any goods from China will not be able to compete with their competitors in Nigeria. Because as we speak today, power has been an issue. So that the Buhari administration has done lots in the power sector to improve it. Because the PDP destroyed the power sector. They destroyed it the more. They collected 15 billion naira within the system and they were unable to add a single megawatt to the electricity. They raked in $16 billion. All the just poor people. And they were unable to do anything. They were unable to add a single megawatt to the production of electricity in Nigeria. They destroyed the sector. Now they want to come back. I don't understand this thing. So what I said, when it comes on board, he will build on Buhari's agreement with the power sector. We are all aware of the cement deal. He doing very well. Mandela Power Project is doing very well. All of these things are the things that what I will come and build on and give us people electricity in Nigeria.
Okay.
Thereby, everybody that wants to produce, our people are workaholics. Our people are enterprising. All they need is another environment. All they need is tools to work with. By the time that eventually comes on board, he will give us the environment that we need. He will give us the incentives that were needed. He will give us all the parameters that is needed, to improve the economy. That our people, we have the environment to strive in their enterprises, to strive in their production, to strive in their daily their activities. And everything will no more be an issue, and there will be any facility for them to buy raw materials, to do production at the minimal rate, which whereby every consumer, will have the purchasing power to purchase these goods.
All right.
That is the revolving within the economy.
All right.
That is our economic growth.
Okay. All right, comrade.
What Tinubu said, he will create Abbas. That's anti-terrorism anti-terrorism corps that will solely designated, equipped, trained, technically to deal with bandits and kidnapping and terrorism in Nigeria.
Okay, so
the Nigerian army, they have done their best, but this time around, we should not overstretch them. We will not allow them to be overwhelmed.
All right.
Like, we will renew water package, renew technological training, renew all of those things Those are issues that Bola Tinubu is coming to do.
All right, so comrade.
In which of the world?
Comrade. Nobody,
including the remote part of Maiduguri or Osote, nobody will lack access to anything to affordable tech facility.
All right, comrade. Let's put a plug in that. Let's put a plug in that.
Beyond the local, beyond this and that, what and all of that. What are the people that are coming on board to contribute?
Okay, so let's put a pin in that for now. But you were talking about the army, and I was going to ask you on a lighter note if you will be recruiting the Jagaban army into the main army to go fight the bandits in the northeast. Would you be doing that? Do you have plans for that?
Every Nigerian has the right. He has what it takes to join the army, police, or air force. So the issue of Jagaban army or actual army does not arise at all.
Okay, no problem. Now let's get back to alertness now and agility. The campaign season has been quite an interesting one, and we've seen a lot of gaffes from your candidate. Some of the things he has said, some apparent, like people have said, some apparent issues of incoherence, old age catching up. Do you think that the rigors of the office can be handled by such a man who is getting advanced in age, considering all that has been seen in the campaign period?
My brother, Gaffey, I don't know if you know talking about. As I speaking today of that, you see, the minister there has stopped PDP because of APC today. So that is no issue. That is no issue. What I've said to you is mentally fit, physically fit, intellectually capable to do this job. He was in Southern House, he talked to them, he spoke to issues. Questions were asked, he answered them coherently.
We're talking about
BBC, interview was conducted with him, he answered them coherently.
We're talking about.
He talking everywhere coherently. Gaffey is something that you and I can fall into.
We're talking about incoherence here.
It happens to everybody, regardless of the age. So those are issues that are known issues. We should not be talking about those things because it can happen to everybody. Anybody in that. And God is the author of our, is the scientist of our body. And I say to you, I'm a young man. I do sick. I fall sick at times. You can fall sick at any time. Anybody can fall sick at any time. The God is the author and the finisher of the science of our body. We can only wish ourselves well. We are not going to the villa to do boxing or wrestling now. We are going there with mental ability. Ability to discuss issues intellectually and provide solutions to them.
All right.
Ability to, you know, you can testify to that. He is leader of men, he has trained people, he has trained them to the field, and we are doing very well. He has a lot of talent. So the ability of the leader is to identify talent, develop them, train them, and give them what to do.
All right.
You know, he's a team player, he's a workaholic, and he's something that gives me room for discussion of issues.
Okay.
So, he's going to this job. Don't let us grab this issue.
Okay. Okay.
People bring up when there are no things to discuss.
Okay. So now
The issue of the challenges of the country today is so enormous that if we begin to pick something from this morning till night, we will not be up there.
All right. So Comrade, we have to go now because of our time. But before I let you go, I'd like to ask you, the elections are in about 29, 32 days, thereabout. Where do you see your candidate struggling for votes? What part of the country do you see Asiwaju struggling for vote, and what part do you consider to be a stronghold?
The stronghold of Bola Tinubu is Nigeria. Because he has been to Kano, you see the acceptance. He has been to Lagos, you see the acceptance. He has been to Imo, you see the acceptance. He has been to Enugu, you see the acceptance. He was in Kwara, you saw the acceptance. So Bola Tinubu is not going to struggle for votes anywhere in the country.
All right.
Nigeria is a constituency, and you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. It's only Peter Obi that have no, that will be struggling with votes in so many areas of the country. And Atiku have no votes in so many places. Atiku will soon get the ballot.
All right, no problem.
He has a grave, even in the normal climb, in the Senate climb.
Okay.
Atiku should have withdrawn.
All right.
You and I know we are educated, we are exposed, we are well traveled. In the Senate climb, Atiku should have withdrawn.
All right.
From this rest. Don't worry, all of them are just shiftless people that does not, they don't have anything to fight the country rather than their service agenda.
All right.
So people will not stand for votes anywhere in the country. Nigeria is constituency, irrespective of the age, the tribe, the status, religion, and what have you.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Comrade. We'd like to leave it at that this morning. We've been speaking to Comrade Adeboye Adebayo, spokesperson, APC Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council, and National Director of Media and Publicity, Asiwaju Project Beyond 2023. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Do have a lovely day. Thank you. Well, that's the interview segment. So many things said this morning. Started with the Jagaban. Several left unsaid. I particularly will be looking forward to the legal angles to the Jagaban army issue. It is something that has to be discussed because the inscriptions, the insignia, the titles, they are very worrisome. And then we hope that those things are resolved anytime soon, very soon. Well, that's the interview segment. I will be coming back to bring you who is trending or what is trending on Spring Trends.
Have a nice day. I'm Timothy Pajichaloluola.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Samuel Laduke Akintola was a frontal figure in the historical moves that birthed an independent Nigeria from colonial Britain. As a freedom activist, he deployed his wits, energy, intellect, and oratory skills to prepare the grounds for constitutional talks that eventually culminated in the country's independence in 1960. The 13th Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land cut his teeth as a politician when he became a foundation member of Action Group, the dominant political party in the Western region, and was elected the party's parliamentary leader of opposition at the Federal House of Representatives. The crisis in the Action Group, which pitched Samuel Ladoke Akintola against his leader, was not only a sore point in his colorful political life, but a reversal of gains which characterized the exemplary leadership of Awolowo Akintola premiership. 23 years after his death, Oyo State University of Technology Ogbomosho was renamed Samuel Ladoke Akintola University of Technology to keep his memory alive. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ladoke Akintola as a major character in history.
All right, good morning and welcome to Spring Trends on Western Spring Television. It's still a segment of Morning Spring where we'll bring you who is trending, what is trending, why they're trending, and what people are saying about the who, the what, and the why. My name is Emmanuel Ujadegele. You can follow me on Twitter at EM on Facebook, Emmanuel Ujadegele. You can also follow us on all our social media handles as displayed on your screen at Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter at WSTV_NG, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. Now we start this morning the show in Lagos State. Yesterday, a video came out of Lagos showing something very unsavory that happened between two arms of Nigeria's armed forces. Apparently, there was an issue in Lagos with some bus drivers and some, hoodlums, louts, they like to call them agbero in Lagos. And that degenerated into a fight between the soldiers, a soldier and a policeman, with the soldier attempting to disarm the police officer. I'd like to show you that video from Lagos State. All right, so that's what happened in Lagos yesterday, the fight between the soldier and the policeman. The cause of the fight is yet to be unknown, but it was said that it had to do with the police protecting the hoodlums and the hoodlums trying to come to the rescue of the police. So let's get to see what our Nigerians are saying about that particular incident. We'll start with iDesign and Prince. Cloud Prince says, "Wahala, wahala," in the voice of Portable. "Wahala, wahala. Two uniform fighting. Make nobody separate them, Jerry. Government to government." Agbomeke Iwoni says, "These are security operatives who swore to protect and defend and are the ones creating scenes and drama on a major road. Shameful that that's the highest level of impunity. Disciplinary actions from their superiors." Big Pot says, "Wow, this is lawlessness. The soldier and police just won themselves violence the all." Wonderful awards there. And the next story, the next comment is, MI, there's a reward for labor. It says, "I hope there wasn't any fatality here. This is dangerous. Look at how they were dragging the firearm. Although the soldiers seem to have locked the trigger, but that wasn't a good scene at all. Benedict Benson is next, says, this is the problem we are facing every day in Lagos. How will police officers working with hoodlums to arrest motorists, all because of bribe, yet the Nigerian police can't find lasting solutions to this mess? Too bad. What of if there's... please, let me warn people on social media. If you don't, they will not confuse you. Don't confuse me. The next comment is from Benedict Benson. It says, from Amto says, the result of recruiting touts and cultists into Nigerian forces, all in the name of long leg, while the most competent and qualified ones are being rejected because they don't have a godfather. It is well, Sha. Next comment is from Taos Law, says, Nigerian army must fish out these area boys following these task force officials. The location is Ojota Bridge. Now from there, we move over to the United Kingdom. If you've been on social media recently, you must have seen pictures and stories flying around about INEC wanting to use body odor as biometrics to identify voters. Well, that was not what was said by the INEC chairman in Chatham House. So I'd like to show you a video and some of the comments that people have had to say that why would INEC want to use body odor? How is that even viable? But let's see what the INEC chairman actually meant.
In fact, one of them said that they are going to introduce a new biometric using body odor. I said, please, not yet. Let's make haste slowly. But when he explained it to me, it sounded logical. He said, don't laugh, Chairman, because I said body odor is also a biometric. He said, how does your dog recognize you? It's from your body odor. And that's why if another person walks to the house, it barks. When you move into the house, it wags its tail because it recognizes your body odor. I said, but for elections, let's wait, not now.
Well, you can see the INEC chairman there with lots of laughter explaining that it was actually a proposal by someone asking them to use body odor, but then it may not work. It may likely not work, because how do you identify that you have body odor detecting machines at the voting point? But then let's see what has been said on Facebook about that particular story. Tunde Bajumo says, the same INEC that criminally and intentionally refused to give us our PVC so as to disenfranchise us and then claim the vote of a particular region is the highest, what can they not do? We are watching out for the disaster they are trying to bring on themselves. The next comment is Mike Adders. He says, what is wrong with these people? Why are they trying hard to make us believe that credible election is more difficult than rocket science? Body odor as means of identification of 100 million people. What is this nonsense? Frank Honora says, you are leaving important things. They talk rubbish. We have reached the stage that eligible voters should be able to vote at any polling unit, just like we use our ATM. So we don't need travel just to vote. But unfortunately, well, you can see Ariel Black says, does this mean they are trying to identify a voter with some kind of body odor detecting machine? But we wait to see if INEC will implement this and how they will do that. Great Assam has a very long story. It says, what? The one alone I have perceived most times from pretty ladies alongside with bad breath don't make me lose interest. If at all I've been get for them. Imagine a collection of electorate. When I say waiting with the function of INEC again, I'm trying to recall waiting them teach me via government as a subject. Now, Colm Godwin says deodorant should be distributed during campaigns so that voters with such issues will not disrupt the process. Sakri says body odor biometric. Now back to Twitter. Please, not now. Not anytime. Don't legitimize body odor unless you want people to go to the polling unit smelling like iniquity. Well, that's that on that story. So we move away to another very disturbing story from the International Center for Investigative Reporting. This ICIR gave out a very disturbing statistic yesterday, very disturbing report. And what they said was that Nigeria accounts for 89% of Christians martyred worldwide. Nigeria accounts for 89% of Christians martyred worldwide. Now, let me quickly read out to you what part of what they said. They said that the Open Door Watch List 2023, released on Tuesday, January 17, said out of the total 5,621 Christians killed for their faith during the reporting period, Nigeria recorded 5,014, marking the country as one of the most dangerous places to follow Jesus. The report tracked the period from October 1st, 2021 to September 30th. In the repeat of last year's ranking, Nigeria ranks number 1 in the World Watch List subcategories of Christians killed, abducted, sexually harassed, forcibly married, and physically or mentally abused. It also ranks number 1 in homes and businesses attacked for faith-based reasons, as well as number 2 in the subcategories of church attacks and internal displacement. Well, I'd like to show you people's comments on that particular issue on Twitter. We begin with Chief Nonso. Odogu says, do you know how crazy that the highest number of Christians killed in the world are Nigerian Christians? Yet Christians support Muslim ticket. The next comment comes from KC John. He says it is the silence of Professor Shibajo that gave at official ABAT the impetus to choose a Muslim as a running mate. He was silent on all metrics he can be evaluated at. As a pastor, Christian, a teacher, professor, and a lawyer, every one of it, he failed with great eloquence and oratory. Next comment is from NRS Oluwasegun Ajayi. He says the statistics is so indicting. In other words, Christians are more safe in Muslim countries than Nigeria, that is a secular country. This is terrible, man. And the next comment comes from Nacho Spectre. Says, and some individual somewhere somehow believes that there is nothing wrong with a Muslim ticket in Nigeria. I'll take the next comment also. That comes from TNA Obidat. He says, for those who don't understand, for every 1,000 martyred Christians globally, 890 happened in Nigeria. If you still don't understand how wild that is, there are over 190 countries and territories in the world. This is as ridiculous gets. God. Well, that's that person's comment. Now, Olushola is quoting that tweet by the ICIR. Says, it is easy to look away when you're not affected directly. Just so you know, this is happening despite having a pastor as the number 2 man in the country. Imagine what it would look like when there is no voice in Aso Rock. Well, that's Olushola's comment. And data and facts coming from Olawaski. Data and facts don't lie. Christians in Nigeria are an endangered species. Religious extremism exists in Nigeria, worst in northern Nigeria. APC's Muslim ticket is a final nail to the coffin that must never be allowed. They play. Last comment says, Princess, which means not even in Islamic Middle East or Pakistan are Christians killed the way they are in Nigeria. Very worrisome statistic there. Boela Dukan Wojo Suleiman says, in 2021, a Christian was killed every 2 hours in northern Nigeria, the worst country for the persecution of Christians in Africa. Go look up the start. Well, that's that on that story about the ICR. We hope that the government will look into protecting Christians, into protecting everybody. It's worrisome that Nigeria has 5,000 plus cases out of 6,000 plus cases of religious extremism affecting Christians. Now we'll move on to the very last story that we have for you tonight. Today on the political scene, the wife of the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, Remi Tinubu, had something to say yesterday as reported by the People's Gazette. She says, reject my husband if he fails to perform in 4 years. That's Tinubu's wife, Oluremi Tinubu, there saying that Nigerians should reject her husband if he doesn't perform after 4 years. Now we'll go straight to the comment on that story. King's MD says, stone us. Now, quote, stone us if we fail to perform after 4 years. APC 2015. In October 2020, youths picked up flags, not even stones. Armored tanks rolled out. Touts released, gunshots rent the air, blood flowed, parents wailed, then silence. Only fools will fall for this. The next comment is from Foundational Baby Girl. February 17th, baby says, we don't need to wait till 4 years. I'm sorry, ma'am, we're rejecting him now. We don't have 4 years to waste again. Next comment, please, comes from Josie Worthy. He says, your husband asked Nigerians to stone them after 4 years if Buhari fails to perform. It's now 7 years plus, and they're yet to deliver on their campaign promises. Can you kindly present him so we can do the needful? Very important question there. Well, that's that person's comment, I must tell you. Satet says, the same old story. We heard it before. Even Atunde Fashola in 2015 campaign said that Nigerians should reject Buhari or Shibajo after 4 years if they do not perform. But today, Buhari or Shibajo is finishing their 8 years in office with abysmal performance. All reacting to Remi Tinubu's statement. That Igbo doctor says, same old script of 2015. This time, let's vote wisely for a candidate that is responsive, accountable, and competent. We need someone to be held accountable to his words. Well, that on that particular story, that's on that on Remi Tinubu. We've had so many stories this morning, quite a number of them, from Lagos police and soldier fighting, in the Chatham House interview of Yakubu Mahmood, President, Chairman of INEC, down to ICR's quite damning statistics. And that's where we'd like to end it this morning on the show. We're asking the government to please protect the lives of Nigerians, regardless of their religion. It is worrisome that Nigeria ranks #1 in the issues of religious extremism. It ranks #1 in homes and businesses attacked for faith-based reasons, as well as #2 in the subcategories of church attacks and internal displacement. Also, in last year's ranking, Nigeria ranks #1 in the World Watch list of subcategories of Christians killed, abducted, sexually harassed, forcibly married, and physically or mentally abused, meaning that Nigeria accounts for 89% of Christians martyred worldwide. Now, to put that in perspective, out of the total of 5,621 Christians killed for their faith during the reporting year, Nigeria recorded 5,014. That is very disturbing, and we hope that the government steps up to its responsibility to nip that issue in the bud. We'll leave it at that on the show this morning. My name is Emmanuel Ojadigele. Follow me on Twitter at @EMOjadigele. On Facebook, Emmanuel Ojadigele. And you can follow this station, Western Spring Television, on all our social media handles right there on your screen. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Western Spring Television. One day left to the weekend. Remember to get your PVCs. I'll see you tomorrow.